Welcome to day 2 of Risky Business. I hope you enjoyed the sessions yesterday. I think we had a great lineup of speakers and some really great content for you, and hopefully there was some useful insight for you that you took away from the sessions yesterday. We've got a great lineup again today, fantastic speakers again, and some really interesting sessions covering a large range of topics for you that I hope you're going to enjoy today. I'm really pleased this morning to be welcoming Brian and Craig from the SAP user group and Brian from Tata Steel. Brian and Craig are colleagues of mine who I've worked with for some time at the user group. We've bumped into each other year on year for nearly 20 years at the SAP user group conference. Well, it feels like a long time when we talk about it like that, doesn't it? And I think we've got a really interesting session for you this morning to talk a little bit about how peers in your industry and other people in your field of work can support you in your professional lives, your personal lives, and also in order to land some of the initiatives that we're helping clients with. I think it's a really interesting model to use that community around you to help you to get your initiatives across and to get some of the work you're doing working more effectively in your organization. So I think maybe if we could just briefly get you guys to introduce yourselves. So Craig, do you want to kick off?
Thank you, Richard. And God, 20 years, it does make me feel a bit old, and now I know where those grey hairs come from, as I am getting old. But thank you very much. As you mentioned, Craig Dale from UK and Ireland SAP User Group. I'm Chief Executive and really charged with working with the board to set strategy and then working with our team to deliver the strategy. And delighted to be here today, and hopefully everybody has had a great day one.
Thank you, Craig.
Hi, thank you, Craig. Yeah. I'm Brian from Information Security Manager for Tata Steel, but I'm also the chair of the Audit Control and Security Special Interest Group with the user group. One of my main responsibilities in my day job is all to do with SAP and SAP security and making sure that our systems are secure. Hence why it fits in nicely with my chairmanship of the Special Interest Group. Yes, as Richard said, yeah, known him for quite some time now. I think since from my very first sort of user group conference right up until to date, and long may it continue, shall we say?
Thanks, Brian. Cool. So I'm just going to switch over to just have I think a conversation. Really, this is a panel discussion for the three of us, just to talk through some of the challenges that we see in that community, and how you're seeing organisations leverage the communities that you form to best effect, really. Craig, have you got any initial sort of opening thoughts on how the SAP community tackles this sort of challenge?
Yeah, and I think you know what you say by utilising that word shared, and I think that is the correct use, because they are shared challenges. You know, many customers that we see in the UKISUG community all share the same challenges, but also that brings shared opportunities. You know, when customers get together and start sharing, so Brian mentioned the Audit Control and Security Special Interest Group. So when we run those meetings, when we run webinars, when we attend the conference, when we get together, seeing customers talk about those shared challenges, but also the key thing for me is when they share solutions. You know, when they've customers been on a journey that another customer is starting on, or is in a similar space to them. That's where that power of community comes in, like you mentioned earlier. I feel that sharing, that knowledge sharing, that I suppose empathizing as well with your fellow SAP customers, and that's what we see in there. And I don't know, Brian, what do you see from within your community?
Well, Craig, yeah, you touched on some really good points there. Yeah, we definitely see that because it is quite interesting when you might raise a topic in the special interest group, and then you might have the wealth of the journey there. You might have somebody who's already completed that journey, or you've got somebody who's just starting on that journey, and someone in between, and the chance to share the experiences of how the ones that have finished the journey, how they actually got there, what issues did they come across, what are the pointers for people already on the journey to look out for. That is when the power of the user group as a community really works. And not all organizations are exactly the same, but we do tend to find that we all have the same issues and the same problems when it comes to, say, implementing SAP or implementing security and authorizations, and that on there. No matter the size of your organization, whether you're a small SME or whether you're a big multinational, those issues are still paramount across to all of us.
Yeah, and I guess the it doesn't have to be a formal user group or community, does it? This can be a kind of informal collaboration between sort of colleagues that have come across each other that have similar challenges or whatever.
Oh, without a shadow.
I think
so many times. Sorry, Richard. We've seen it so many times where one conversation will lead to offline conversations and follow-up conversations where customers can help each other. And I'm sure you must see that from within your business as well as a partner in that space.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think so even within our own organization, it's really important that we get our teams to act as communities and to collaborate with each other. Otherwise, effectively, we would be offering the same service as a contractor. So, if we can't improve our service and offer unless we actually make sure that we can bring the power of the whole to an organization, rather than what that one individual that is doing their project is able to offer them. But I think kind of the other thing that on this topic that I think is important for us to embrace is that we're not, as an organization, as a consultancy, the solution to every problem that a customer has got. And I think it's quite important for us to recognize that, particularly with things like change management in an organization, sometimes having a peer who's landed a similar sort of project within their organization can be really helpful for the customer to actually understand how their role in the project ensures a successful outcome. Because I think it's easy for us to tell customers sometimes, but customers sometimes can be cynical of a consultancy's viewpoint. So it's important that they hear those points reinforced from their peers, across other organizations, etc. And also there's a subtle difference that we can't always offer that is important, that there's a difference between being on the customer side, and we've got plenty of people in our team who've worked on customer side before joining us as a consultancy. But I think just sometimes speaking to your peers helps you reinforce viewpoints around how you might sort of land an initiative in the organization.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with that, and it's back to that. Those shared challenges, shared opportunities. And I suppose we all like to meet and talk and share with somebody that's just like us, perhaps does the same job, same industry or similar industry, but has those shared challenges. So we want to be able to, interact together and build those relationships, which I do believe is really important. And back to that change aspect, that certainly links to a piece of work we did last year when we released our cost of change white paper, because it was a huge challenge for customers. And I think what we found when we were building up to that paper was that, so if we look at the journey to S/4HANA specifically, when we did some questioning around that, I think it was almost 40% of customers underestimated the amount of change management that was required. So I think you're very right to pick up on that point of change management.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just following on from that, Craig, as well. It brings me to mind of the old adage, a problem shared is a problem halved. So if we share all our problems in a community such as the Audit Control Security Special Interest Group, where we talk about the issues and problems, we said, you can guarantee you'll be speaking to somebody who said, yeah, I saw that last year. This is how we got around it. This is how we fixed it. So immediately you get in, not the consultant's view, but perhaps from the real life view of how they actually fixed on there. But it's also good as well with the likes of I cannot reiterate how much depth the Turnkey guys have. As Richard said, they've come from businesses and they've come there into the consultancy there, and they then bring with them a wealth of real knowledge. Because sometimes with consultants, it's learnt knowledge, not real knowledge experience at the coalface. And we find that that's the best sort of way to get the points over to users, is having that real life experience that you can draw on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one of the things I guess you could see this as a challenge to our own kind of usefulness in an organization if we get all our customers to talk to each other and solve their own problems. So what role do we play in that? But I think it's actually quite important for us, I feel, to challenge ourselves as a company to be that step ahead of customers and to add value above and beyond something they might be able to solve themselves. So I think it's quite healthy for us to encourage customers to talk to each other and to challenge ourselves to actually still be able to add value over and above what they might, connect and sort of solve within their own organization. I think we're there as a facilitator to empower our customers to solve problems. We're not, there to make sure that we stay in that organization for as long as possible. It's important for me that we work like that and we think like that we have to keep reinventing ourselves. We have to keep solving the next more difficult problem for customers and sort of stay ahead in order to add value rather than solving all the old stuff that they might have started to get their heads around themselves already.
And I think that is quite important because when you think about what Brian was saying there about customers sharing problems and because you will probably know within your own business as well, but you can often get your head into a challenge or a problem. And what you sometimes also need is somebody to help you take a step back to look at a more holistic view and look towards the future rather than what's challenges right here and now. And what you mentioned there, Richard, on how Turnkey can support customers in that way. You've got a vast knowledge repository within your business. I know that because I said we've worked together over the years, and as we do with other partners, because that's what we see the value of the partner community, if you like, to help support customers, help them on the journey, but also provide that thought leadership, showing customers directions that they can take for the future to better deliver for their business. And I'm sure you must have a vast amount of knowledge there to share.
Well, we're trying anyway, but I think that kind of, we've got a commitment to thought leadership in Turnkey, and it's for me it's about working hard on understanding what the next challenge our customers need to think about and provoking conversations and challenge in an organization about what they ought to be thinking about. Often the kind of people at the coalface in Brian's sort of role don't necessarily have the time to step back and think about some of the strategic initiatives they should be thinking about next year, or some of the challenges that will come with their S4 upgrade or whatever initiative might be coming next year. So we're trying to give them, I guess, a kind of a fast track to some of the things they should be thinking about and to start those conversations, but at the same time obviously kind of giving our own thoughts on that, and hopefully there is a self-serving element to it. It's about establishing our credibility to support them in those types of initiatives. But again, the connecting people up with peers is really important for us in doing that, because otherwise it's just about us telling folks like Brian that we could help, as opposed to letting our customers talk to each other and sort of hopefully reinforcing that message themselves. And it's really important for us that we get customers talking to each other and don't hide behind marketing material, etc. It's about making sure customers connect with each other and hopefully validate the value we can offer. I mean, we find the user group really helpful for that. Brian, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that from your side.
Well, I was just going to say, Richard, that that awareness is where we can help. That's why I think I see the beauty of our community is, like, say, we can quite often come to yourselves and say, have you got a customer who's gone through this issue? Our members are facing this. Have you seen it in the real life? Have you got a customer who can come and tell our community how they solved that on there? And I think that's where it's sort of the beauty of it works. I think we have a very good sort of relationship with yourselves, that 9 times out of 10, if we come to you with a problem, you've got a customer who you can bring up to us to explain how they solved that problem and how and that on there. And that's a very strong message then back to our members, in the session.
So from that, Brian, just a quick question for you, I suppose. While we've got Richard as a captive audience, what are the key challenges that you're seeing within? So if we're looking within the SAP community, for instance, in our UKISUG community, what are the challenges that you were seeing from the ACS community with regards to SAP?
One of the biggest challenges we currently see is the move to S4, and I don't mean, like, say, the small single users moving, like, say, to S4, because they can be the easy ones because they will just do a greenfield implementation. The issues we're seeing are the big corporations who perhaps are wall-to-wall SAP in the ERP terms, and how do they sort of move their legacy ERP into S4? They may have years and years of knowledge built up in that legacy ERP system, but how does that all then sit in with the new? And that's what we're seeing a lot. A lot of the issues tend to be, like, say, how do we move to that journey? How can we move to that journey with the less amount of risk to us as an organization? And that on there, and I think hopefully this is where consultants like the guys at Turnkey, who are probably helping organizations move to S4, will be seeing the different scenarios, the greenfield, the brownfield, the hybrids, and it's then sharing that knowledge with our members.
I mean, we're seeing a couple of very specific challenges in that S4 journey. And so our customers tend to run SAP because that's the heritage of the company. But over the last sort of 6-7 years, we've been developing our services to be a lot more agnostic of SAP. Part of the reason for that is the deployment of S4 in most organizations these days often involves knitting together a number of applications that represent a sort of hybrid cloud. So they might choose SAP, or often they'll choose S4 for their finance application, but there are lots of different applications that they might choose from to solve their problems in their HR processes, to solve their procurement challenges, reporting, etc. And the interconnectivity of the applications is kind of, a real, we've come a long way in terms of interconnecting those applications from where we might have been 5-10 years ago, deploying a solution that, if it wasn't SAP end-to-end, was going to be quite challenging to tie together. So what we're seeing very specifically in that is there's an identity management challenge in that. So a lot of customers are needing to deploy some sort of identity and access management solution to solve the challenge of managing the user ID across those applications and the join and move a lever process across those applications, and to manage all that in one place. In the old world, our identity to a large extent was our user ID in SAP. Now you've got to have multiple applications stitched together. Even if you've deployed wall-to-wall SAP, to a certain extent, SuccessFactors is a very different application to the S4HANA cloud environment. So you've still got to manage multiple IDs if you don't have some sort of identity application knitting that all together. So we're seeing that as one of the key sort of trends, and there's a lot of demand that we're seeing in our customer base to get identity right. Not necessarily specifically driven by S4 upgrades, but S4 upgrades definitely make a case for getting, for revisiting that challenge. And then the other one I think is cybersecurity for SAP. So, if customers are deploying cloud sort of variations of SAP, there are quite a lot of different ways to deploy SAP with a cloud element to it, but all of them sort of come back to there's a higher risk profile these days from a cyber threat perspective, and we want to protect the key business applications in our landscape from cyber threat, rather than just assuming that the perimeter protects us from that. So in an on-premise environment, you could technically argue that you put the fortress up and the walls protect you. I mean, we all know that breaches happen anyway, but in today's world, there's a lot of doors in that fortress. So you've got to kind of protect the business applications themselves. So we're seeing quite a lot of quite a trend for customers thinking more carefully about how they protect their SAP and other key business applications from external threats.
Yeah. You raised some really good points there, Richard, and there are many of the things that give CISOs and information security officers headaches in the just in the cyber area alone. But even like say with the multitude of different applications now coming with the likes of S4, as you said on there, okay, I can understand the identity and access on there, but you've also got then the issues then because you've got different systems connected in there. Is how do you maintain the segregation of duties, segregation of responsibilities within those applications that are joining there? When it was just SAP, it was great. You just had one lot of segregation of duties. You had a big matrix that you relied on, but now you're probably looking at SAP, you're looking at SuccessFactors, you're looking at perhaps Ariba or Invaluer. All these things interacting on there will have their own way, and it's almost as if for the audit control and security community, that problem is going to grow.
Yeah.
We was hoping it would go away, but it's never going to go away. It's probably just going to get worse.
Yeah, and I think you raise a really good point around. So in S4HANA, I think a lot of customers are told that they're going to be able to use standard roles to manage everything as well, and that's kind of one of the other themes we've seen is customers trying to unpick that decision halfway through their project because it just hasn't worked out for them. They're not kind of finding those to be clean or of SODs or sort of possible to deploy and use in their sort of out of the box form.
That's really interesting. Just some of the points you were both discussing there. It kind of pleases me with how we put the structure of you guys to connect together. Get the plug in for our conference, of course. But delivering our kind of risk governance and cybersecurity stream seems to tick a lot of the boxes of the challenges you've all discussed as well. And that's really pleased me that we are covering the right topics. And I suppose that links back as well to we talk about the power of community, and obviously that internally you mentioned that, Richard, how you can share more within your business to ensure that you're really adding value, extra value for customers. We look at our community, how bringing not just customers together, but partners such as yourselves, SAP as well, bringing everything together, that whole SAP community together to really drive success for SAP customers. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're all looking for. And as we move towards that in people coming out of the silos, whether it be internally in their business or even perhaps within their industry, thinking that their challenges are only within their industry, they're actually not. The majority will be spread across a whole host of industries and engaging with other customers who can really empathize and understand the challenges you're going through. And make us feel that if you like, not want to quote Michael Jackson, but you're not alone. We're all in this shared space, and we're all working hopefully towards very similar goals. They're all organizational objectives, obviously, but we all want the very best from our SAP systems to enable our business to succeed. And I think that is a kind of a huge advantage of that power of community and people coming together to really help each other going forward. And like I said, that risk governance, cybersecurity, some key topics that you both discussed there that will be key to us going forward and bringing customers together to talk about them.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, there's a Brian-shaped role in every customer, right? So, but within your organisation, Brian, there's only one you doing your role, and there's a lot of responsibilities kind of get piled onto that role that nobody else needs to necessarily understand the detail of, but also it means that very few people will properly understand your world and some of the pressures that come with that and some of the responsibilities that are there. And also, I guess where the workload flexes up and down over time, there are very few people in your organization who would necessarily understand what level that workload is and how much pressure that's putting on you around audit time and things like that. So having kind of peers across other companies that are doing the same thing as you are for other organizations, I think, to put words in your mouth, but that must be a real kind of help from a mental health perspective as much as anything else, just to have other people who understand your world and can support you a little bit in terms of understanding the pressures you face.
Almost certainly, Richard. Yes, it is. That's one of the beauties of the the special interest group, of meeting with my peers there. Where we can openly talk about the problems that we see and issues in, and you can guarantee you're not alone in that. Other people are facing the same issues on there, and it's normally that then you can work together to say, well, what have you tried? Or we tried this. Did that succeed? Not really, but we did a little tweak on this, we did this, and it's just sharing those bits of those little snippets of best practice you can then take back, which it does help. And it does help to feel that you're not alone. I'm a firm believer as well is that you've probably got technical people within your organizations as well, and don't be afraid to ask the questions. Don't be afraid to quiz them and question them and ask them for their advice. I don't profess to be a technical user, but like I say, I've been around SAP for, well, since the early days of R2 right way up to where we currently are now, going into S4. And I'm looking forward to the new challenge of getting to grips with S4 in the time that I have remaining until I hang my boots up and go and sit in the garden with a pipe and slippers and study the flowers, which it's not that far on the horizon, as I keep telling my CISO, that we bet But no, it is good to share, and it does help that you are not alone. That there are other organisations, sometimes in a worse position than where you are, but at least then you can help. And it's almost like you can help and put your arm around them and say, well, look, we did this. We did this, we tried this, you're not alone, we're here to help you. Just pick up a phone, pick up a Teams, send me a Teams message or a Teams call or whatever, and we can talk things through. We can share, we can share best practice, share knowledge, which and that on there, which we can try and help each other. At the end of the day, we need to be there for all. We all need to survive in this world, and I think the more we can help each other, the easier that becomes.
Yeah, and I think as I said earlier, we're kind of trying to encourage this in our customer base across the board, really. So the user group at SAP is in the SAP user group and the ACS user group that you run, Brian, is really well organized, and a kind of well established group of people, and it's quite a large group of people, right? But you only need one or two people to form a community around this, to have somebody to know the same sorts of challenges you have. And I think as a service provider, we almost have an obligation to connect those people up where we can. And outside of SAP, we're trying to kind of work on building some much lighter weight than you guys run, but communities in SailPoint, in ServiceNow, IRM, a number of other kind of applications and industries that we work in, to try and kind of connect up some of the customers we've got. And that's one of our key drivers for next year, is to try and improve the community offering that we're able to help our customers with in some of those less well established kind of groups of people that would benefit from being connected,
I think that's a great initiative. I really do, Richard. And when we look at kind of the UKISUG community and the knowledge that's held in that community, also, if you think about the likes of Brian, our other volunteers and members and partners, the passion that's in there as well to help each other, support each other, and really ensure success for the whole community. That human element as well, that people bring to it, and that's the important part of everything we're talking about here. It's that people are at the heart of everything, because it's the people that will look for information, that will create the relationships and really help customers, help themselves even, drive that improvement in risk management, cybersecurity, and everything. It's again, I do feel it's down to people and the relationships they build.
Yeah, that is really, really true there, Craig. And cybersecurity is platform agnostic. Cybersecurity can affect you no matter what you're running, whether it be SAP, whether it be Active Directory, whether it be an MES system, anything. Cybersecurity it's definitely platform agnostic and can attack you and affect you anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point, that the issues you face in an SAP world are very similar to the issues you face in a Salesforce application or whatever, in terms of particularly the business change stuff, right? So the buttons you press and the knobs you turn from a technical perspective are different, but the business challenges and the kind of process challenges and the way to kind of get the initiative off the ground and get budgets in an organization and all those sorts of things are common no matter what business application or IT security challenge you're facing.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it wouldn't be right not to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about the user group and what's coming up next year, Matt. So sorry, Matt, Craig. Slip of the tongue there, and you know why. Maybe you could give us a little bit of insight into what's coming up and what you've got in mind for the party this year as well, which is always good fun.
No problem. Well, we've got a number of events left running for the rest of this year, and we're currently working on the calendar of events for next year, planning what it's going to look like for the whole of 2023. We've seen through this year building back on face-to-face events, which are going really, really well. And some people were still kind of reticent of coming out and meeting back face-to-face. But once they get there, what I've seen is kind of the joy, the happiness, the connections being recreated and relationships being moved on to the next level is vital for the whole community. And it's great to see that. The next major face-to-face event we have, of course, I mentioned, is UKISUG Connect, happening between the 27th and the 29th of November, the ICC in Birmingham. Again, a whole raft of opportunities there to look at these topics we've been talking about today. We have a stream running throughout the event. I believe your guys are going to be running a workshop as well at that event, Richard, to help customers on this journey and help improve risk management in their organizations. And it kind of seeing what I've seen when people get back together. And, you know, if I reflect on what we've been talking about today as well, those, you know, finding people like yourself in the same similar situation, doing a similar job, and helping and building that network of peers that can help you. I was reading a book by Simon Sinek recently, and he talks about that, you know, in the online environment, you can start, create relationships, but to truly build trust, you've got to meet face to face. We as humans need a handshake. We need that human connection, I think, to really build trust and drive that relationship forward. And, you know, that's what we do. You know, when we bring people together, that's what we're looking to do at the end of November when we bring the whole SAP community together, and what we're building out in our calendar for next year. So, you know, you'll see a blend of online events, but also a lot more face-to-face as we build back a lot more in that face-to-face environment. And, you know, that's what we've got coming, sharing knowledge, being passionate, and bringing all of us humans as people together.
Yeah, and I can say for the SAP community, having sort of worked with you guys for the last 20 years, Craig, that, you know, what you've created at the user group is a fantastic kind of opportunity for that networking and that collaboration to happen. And you've added a really, really nice northern sprinkling of fun to it as well, I think, which, you know, it obviously that is all part of forming those connections, you know, giving people the opportunity to socialize together as well. And the fact that you've got that and really knitted it into the event, you know, is testament to how much you get this challenge of trying to create these communities, you know. So I think if we can go anywhere near creating something similar for some of our customers outside of the SAP world, I think they'd find that hugely beneficial.
Oh, fantastic. I wish you the very best of luck.
Cool. So thanks everyone for listening. So we've got some great sessions in the lineup for you today. So I hope we don't lose you after this event. So we've got the Turnkey Identity and Access Management team are going to be talking straight after this session. And then we've got Beyond Trust and SailPoint. Kevin and Mustafa are going to chat through some challenges more specifically around some of those issues that you might see from a OneTrust perspective. One of our customers, Matt from St James's Place, is going to be discussing his challenges in landing a CyberArk project there at St James's Place, which is a really interesting case study. And we're going to touch on a couple of points that we were discussing with Brian there later. So Lucas from Carlsberg very kindly joined us to talk a little bit about some of the cyber threats in the SAP world. And then we've got Punit from BP is going to be joining us later as well. And then Dominic will be talking about a project that we've been working on with him at a major client. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. I think there's something for everybody on the agenda still for you. With that, I'd like to say thank you for joining us, and a huge thanks to Craig and Brian for joining us this morning to talk through some of those challenges around the community and the value that can bring to your organisation. So thank you guys, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.